So good morning or good night, depending on where you are, and welcome to another collaboration video of the Shield Dude and the Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and today I'm joined by, I have first Tom, the Green Man, and this is his first collaboration with me. Tom has another YouTube channel, and he does album reviews, rankings, and he also does reviews of books and sci-fi films. So I think you should check out his channel. It's pretty cool. And again, we got John from JC Rock and Metal Reviews joining me once again. And today, since we're going to talk about the power of metal and rock in music and TV. And this topic was inspired because obviously a few months ago, like a month ago, Stranger Things 4 premiered. And they featured Metallica Master of Puppets in a pivotal scene, and the song went viral once again. And also Running Up the Hill did that. So we want to talk about why is movies and TV like a great gateway for people to get into rock and metal. So we're going to have today, we're going to start with Tom since he's the first time in the channel. So first of all, how are you guys today?
Oh, we're doing good. Thanks.
Yeah, good. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Hector, as well.
Of course, man. It's my pleasure. So, Tom, let's start the topic with you. Come on, let us know, like, on this topic of power, the power of metal and music. Like, what were your earliest like memories of hearing music in movies and TV, and how did it impact you?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many. There are a lot of films I can think of that have used rock and metal a lot. And I found when I was doing this, particularly in the 2000s, so I'm thinking of when I was going to the cinema, kind of in my late teens, early 20s, seeing a lot of films, they would have metal a lot in the credits, rolling at the end of the films. Generally, you'd have a lot of that happening. And then I thought of a few moments in TV series, obviously the most recent one, Eddie Munson in Stranger Things, as you mentioned, which seems to have really had a massive impact. And I think that's a lot to do with the popularity of Stranger Things and that it reaches different generations. It's not just kind of, a lot of people are into that, not just the young, not just the old, not just the kind of middle-aged. It seems to apply to a lot of different people that they really like Stranger Things. So for me, I think it always has more of an impact if you've already got the platform of something which is very popular to launch it. It's like you've got to have a launch pad to make it, not necessarily, but I think it helps if you have a launch pad to make, get people interested into a song or a band, or usually a song. You get into the song and then you get into an album or the band or something like that. Not necessarily in that order, I guess. But yeah, so I was thinking of films, specific ones, specific TV series. So I'll just try and go through mine reasonably quickly. Otherwise, we'll probably end up talking for way too long. So the first one I thought of was, because I'd seen this film quite recently, was Saw 2. And in the credits, you have Mudvayne's Forget to Remember. And the reason that came to mind as well, because I remember walking out of the cinema, the theatre, and hearing that song and really liking it. And that's Forget to Remember by Mudvayne. But I think that there is a soundtrack which probably has other bands on that one as well. The one which I think you guys might mention, so sorry if I steal your thunder, is Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
Oh, yeah.
You could be
Forgot
mine.
that one.
Yeah, it's going back a bit further. Another one, which is a great film, which has quite a metal soundtrack all round, is The Crow, 94, Brandon Lee. Actually, Brandon Lee died on set in this film, which is pretty sad. Yeah. And TV series. So I haven't got this on DVD or disc or anything, but Once Upon a Time featured Metallica's The Day That Never Comes in one of their episodes. Can't remember which one. It's not a series I know very well, but I happened to be watching the episodes when Metallica played. Then in The Walking Dead, 3rd season, they play Motorhead. I think it's Fast and Loose. Oh my goodness. So I think other TV series now that I've seen as well that have, obviously Stranger Things we've already mentioned, which is huge. there was another TV series as well, but it's gone out of my mind now, sadly. But yeah, those are probably the examples that come to mind. And I suppose, like I was saying earlier, I think if the popularity is there, it helps to give that song or that band the power that it needs. So Metallica now have loads of traffic. Kate Bush, okay, not really metal, but she now has loads of traffic because of the Stranger Things launch. I would say what might help, or what we might see bringing people around more to metal in the context of movies, TVs, and films is perhaps, having other things, not necessarily just Stranger Things, but other kind of TV series that are maybe, I think you find they're often set in the past, but maybe have more set more recently. So more recent bands can sort of get launched a bit more and get people more into the modern metal scene. That was what I wanted to say. America's Got Talent featured that 10-year-old girl called Harper recently, and that got metal suddenly, I think maybe got people a little bit, not necessarily interested in metalcore per se, but got people checking her out and her music a bit more, because she's like this 10-year-old girl who's now got her, she's released a single recently, which I checked out and I thought was actually pretty cool, called Falling. So I think that America's Got Talent is a mainstream show, isn't it? It's kind of loads of people watch that. I mean, it's not something I personally watch, but I caught that because I think it was on a YouTube reaction video or something, so I checked it out. But yeah, Harper as well. I'm gonna finish there because I think I'll just carry on talking for ages and not let you guys get a word in.
No, man. Yeah, I agree. And The Crows is a great film, and that's a movie where you have a great soundtrack and a great movie. And that's not, sometimes you have like a great soundtrack and a crappy movie. So that's a great. Those are some great choices, man. What about you, John?
Okay. Well, I tried to think of how TV and movies are really powerful when they can bring back a song that maybe wasn't popular at a time, and they're usually tied to a special scene or something like very emotional. So I'm going to think of an example that this is not metal, but I don't know if anybody remembers a TV series in the 80s called Family Ties. It had Michael J. Fox. So I don't know, you may or not be familiar with it, but there was this one scene where he like breaks up with his girlfriend and they played a song called In This Moment, which I forget the guy who sang it, but what would you think at this moment, something like that. And that song went like back on the radio and like became like a top 10 hit. I think it was like 5 years after its release. So with that being said, I think movies and TV, do have this power to bring back, songs that we haven't listened to in a long time and bring them to other audiences. So that's what we saw with Stranger Things and Metallica and Kate Bush. So for me, I watched a lot of, when I was a teenager, I think I watched like a lot of those like teen movies and those like John Hughes movies. They played a lot of like new wave. So a lot of those songs would always get stuck in my head because I would like watch these movies all the times. And again, these are not metal, but I'm thinking of like The Breakfast Club with Don't You Forget About Me, and that song. And there's always like these different movies. Fast Times at Richmond High. I'm gonna like do a video on that later. But that was a movie from the early 80s, and that had like a really great soundtrack. And they talked about like Led Zeppelin in that movie and a lot of rock bands. So
Spicoli.
What?
Spicoli.
Spicoli, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great movie. I've watched that movie so many times. I love that one. So that's an example of that. So as for I made a quick list. I did mention The Crow with the Pantera Badge. That's an awesome song. I love that one. But I had the Crow soundtrack, when I was younger. But I'll talk about a few different ones because as you know, I have young kids, and we see a lot of kids movies. So one example was The Secret Life of Pets, and they played a song by System of a Down. You probably know the scene where it has like the the
dogs.
poodle doing the headbanging.
Mhm.
And I guess if you didn't, yeah, I don't think that song became like popular, but it was kind of like pretty cool where they would like use heavy metal in a kids movie, and it would be like appropriate, like nobody like is gonna complain or protest about it. So that was cool. That song's actually bounced just because I knew the band, but it really wasn't a popular song. The Angry Birds movie, another kids movie, they had Paranoid by Black Sabbath. So I remember, being in the movie theater with my kids, and Black Sabbath comes on, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Another kids movie, it was the Trolls World Tour. They had like just like fake metal band. So it's pretty cool that you can use metal in something that's like geared towards kids and not being like offensive as it would have been in like maybe like the 80s, where like parents might have complained, if you're trying to like use metal music in a kids movie. But I think now it has become so mainstream that you can do that. Another good example is the movie Judgment Night. It came out in the early 90s.
I remember that one.
You remember that one? I think it had like Dennis Leary, like these guys getting away from criminals. But the movie, it was okay. I don't think it was that popular, but the thing is that the soundtrack, it was kind of like the one soundtrack that kind of like invented like new metal, because they had all these rappers and metal bands getting together. So we had Slayer and Ice-T. We had I don't remember, well, it was
I think
Onyx and
and
Biohazard,
Anthrax, right?
Pearl Jam. Onyx, it might have been Onyx and Anthrax.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not sure, but I think so.
But that Judgment Night soundtrack was very influential, just in creating a whole new metal genre, because after that soundtrack that came out in 93, then after that we started seeing like the Limp Bizkits and the Rage Against the Machine, and actually Rage Against the Machine was before that, but the whole like new metal scene broke out after that. And a couple more, the Megadeth, they were popular. We were just talking about them in our last video. Angry Again was in Last Action Hero.
Oh,
and,
I was gonna talk about that one, so I can
you're gonna
show
mention it, okay? And
there it is.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The movie is pure shit, but the soundtrack is golden.
But Angry Again, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Angry Again, and that soundtrack also has Alice in Chains. It had an ACD song, Big Gun, and I remember Arnold was in the music video.
Oh yeah, that's cool. And I'll mention one more, and then I'll let you talk. Another Megadeth one, No More Mr. Nice Guy, was from that Shocker movie. That was I actually watched that recently. It's kind of cheesy. It's a Wes Craven movie, but it had a really good soundtrack called No More Mr. Nice Guy, which was an Alice Cooper cover. So those are my lists. And, again, I can go on, but again, there are like so many different examples here.
Yeah, there was a lot of like soundtracks in the 2000s of horror movies that had lots of metal. And you can remember there was like a Dracula one where the soundtrack is good. That was a thing. There were great soundtracks, crappy movies. Like I'm awesome. You mentioned Last Action Hero because I had put that in, and I got to show the pic. So for me, the first time that I remember listening to rock or metal in a scene that was pivotal, like Stranger Things, was in Wayne's World. Everyone, I didn't know Queen at that time. And the first time I listened to Bohemian Rhapsody was when Wayne and Garth were in a car. Here's the scene. The famous scene of Wayne and Garth going to a concert and just jamming to the song Wayne's World, Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, who cannot think of Bohemian Rhapsody now and not think of that scene? Like, I didn't know Queen at the time, and that was my introduction to Queen. Like Metallica, for some young people, their introduction to Metallica was be Stranger Things with Eddie Munson, and that's the power about a TV show like that song, Bohemian Rhapsody. I think it went up the charts when it was in that movie, and it was pretty impressive at the time. So that was the first time that I like really saw like rock in a mainstream movie. I remember other movies from the 80s that had rock and like Lost Boys had the Doors song, and they had like some other like metal bands on it. Beavis and Butthead. You can think of Beavis and Butthead and realizing that White Zombie was popular because Beavis and Butthead played Thunder Kiss 65 on the show and said it was cool. I remember back in the day when I was growing up, I would watch Headbangers Ball, but I would also watch Beavis and Butthead. And even though they were two idiot cartoons, if they liked something, I was going to check it out. And if they said something sucked, they were usually right. So yeah, and like if you were a band and you got on Beavis and Butthead and they said you suck, like, oh my God, like it's kind of amazing that the opinion of two fictional cartoons could hit or break a band. And in the case of White Zombie, they blew, it made their career. I think Rob Zombie to this day says it. And they did a movie, Beavis and Butthead Do America. And actually, Rob Zombie has a scene on that movie that he put the song and he did his cartoonish things. Another movie that it's a great movie, and I think of the awesome soundtrack is The Matrix.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, The Matrix had a great soundtrack that included not only metal but electronic music. They had songs there by The Prodigy. They had Rage Against the Machine. They had Rob Zombie. They had Marilyn Manson. If you were a new metal band or electronic band in the 90s and you were cool, you would be featured in The Matrix. And that movie was a revolutionary movie. So that's a case of a movie that was revolutionary and the soundtrack did well. So I'm sure many bands were discovered because of that soundtrack.
Yeah, I think back then there was like a connection with films coming out, MTV and Kerrang and the bands that were being shown on there. And that there's just a whole strong link there, isn't there, with the audience at that point was probably, they knew that people that were watching those music videos with the images from the film playing in the background were going to pull in that audience to the films themselves and go to the theaters and stuff to see them, and then to get their song played maybe or whatever. There was something happening more then, I feel like, than maybe now, but maybe that's my memory of it.
Yeah, because at that time there was no YouTube. There was the internet was in the baby steps. So it was important because then it changed. It was more bands were being discovered in MySpace and in other areas. But now it's more, I don't think movie soundtracks are as popular as now. I think now with TV, it's like especially streaming services. I was watching, I was watching there's a show on Amazon Prime called The Terminal List. And there's a part where they played an Iron Maiden song, but they played The Trooper. But in the scene that they're playing, the character says, oh, I can't handle this right now in the morning, and change it to another song. And to me, I don't know, that scene to me was kind of like, why put an Iron Maiden song just to like change it, say, it's too early in the morning for this. So I don't think that did anything for Iron Maiden. And plus, that's a show that for you to have to blow up, the show must be a show that all ages see. And that Terminal List is like an 80s movie, so just old farts like us are going to see that show. It's not a show for young kids. But another show that is kind of being overlooked, and they played a lot of metal, especially 80s glam metal, is Cobra Kai. Yeah. And Cobra Kai has been huge with young people. Let's face it, the show is pure crap. It's entertaining shit.
I've not seen it actually. That's one I've not seen.
It's okay. Let me give you the gist of the program. Think of two 50-year-olds fighting about shit they did in high school. That's it. That's the whole gist of the show. So it's ridiculous in nature, but they play Guns N' Roses. They played I think Quiet Riot. If you were an 80s metal band, you're played in that show. And there's even a scene, I think John has seen the show, in the first season where where the Johnny character, he's mentoring this kid, and he's like, oh, he puts like some pop music. He's like, oh, turn that shit off. Put some Guns N' Roses. Put something like this, and then the kid goes into a rabbit hole of listening to like 80s metal because he mentioned some bands, and that's what happens. You know,
Yeah.
if kids see like a song they like, they'll go back into it. And a few years ago, it was video games. Like people would listen, like you said in another video that in Grand Theft Auto, you listened to Megadeth for the first time.
Yeah,
And then there was a video
right.
game called Brutal Legend. It was all about metal, and the main characters played by Jack Black, and they played. There's like Cradle of Filth in the video game. There's so many metal artists. I don't think the video game was that popular, but it was a video game about metal. And you have the Guitar Hero series, you know, how
Yeah.
many bands Metallica has put out, even the Beatles, not being metal, but, you know, Aerosmith.
Yeah, it was Aerosmith. There was the Van Halen one as well. Yeah. I used to play Guitar Hero a lot. Yeah.
So yeah, and a lot of kids discover metal that way. So it's the power of how, like, it can be movies, TV, video games, and on that note, with Stranger Things, you had that gatekeeper saying like, "Oh, I knew Metallica before you," and why deprive people of discovering music? Like at one time, like I said, I discovered Queen because of Wayne's World. Does that make me a poser? Because I didn't know them back when I was a child? No, that's different people discover music different ways. And I listened to that song, listened to Queen, and now I love Queen. So I think it's at the end of the day, it's a beautiful thing that metal rock music gets represented in all those different platforms so new people can get into it at the end of the day. So we're all, like, to end the video, since we talked about Stranger Things 4, Tom had a great idea how to end it. So Tom, talk a little bit about your idea about ending the video so people can realize that, oh, that's a great way to end the video.
Yeah, well, I think it was kind of trending, isn't it, at the time? And it's us going to be naming our Vecna songs. So these are the songs that when faced with Vecna in your kind of worst nightmare, where you need something to get you back to the kind of waking world, I guess, or the real world, not the out of the upside down. You have a song that would get you out, like a song that will wake you up from a nightmare because you recognize it and it's a song you're close to and you have a personal connection with, as we saw with Max and Kate Bush running up that hill.
Yeah, no, and it's a great thing, because I think what it's trying to say is like the power of music, like music saves. So Tom, since this was your idea, let's start with your pick.
Okay, well, I have changed my mind several times because there are so many songs that you love, but there's thousands of them, really, aren't there? Particularly for us when we're listening to so many albums like almost daily. But it's probably going to be a song that you're very close to and that you've grown up with or something, isn't it? But one that you recognize instantly. But for me, I've gone with something. I could have easily gone with something massive like a Megadeth or Metallica song, but then I thought that I went for this. I'm going for Soilwork's Chain Heart Machine because that blew me away the first time I heard it and just left its mark instantly. Yeah, Chain Heart Machine by Soilwork for me.
Nice. What about you, John?
I'm going to go with one. It's going to sound obvious and something we talked about in our last video, but Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. I think that's the one song that, if I can go back to when I started getting into music, like really going out and buying albums and really being interested in, and I was, I guess, 16 or 17 years old. And I think that is just the one song that has always stayed with me over the years. I mentioned this in our Guns N' Roses video, that I never get bored of it. I just love the song, I love the melody. I just, love everything about Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. So that would be the song I chose.
Yeah, that's a great song, and you can't go wrong with the lick from Slash. So I was thinking hard about this, and my pick, it's not metal, it's a rock song, alternative song. And if you've seen videos of me, you know that I love the Smashing Pumpkins. It's a band that it pulls in my heartstrings, you know, even though Billy Corgan can have a whiny voice. But this actual song was actually not a single, but I think it's one of their deeper tracks and very emotional song. And it's from Siamese Dream, and the song is called Mayonnaise. That's a song that when I listen to that song, I remember, you know, it's all about like wanting to be yourself. I remember listening to that song, going on road trips, and the beginning of the song is like a sweet intro guitar. So it's a song that it has a lot of like emotional value to me. So like I could have picked like a harder like Metallica song or something harder, but I think that's a song that when I hear that riff, I get transported to different parts of time, and it's just a powerful song. That it's I think it's one of their best songs that is not mentioned enough. So yeah, Mayonnaise by the Smashing Pumpkins. So we want to know about
That's a
people.
great song.
Yeah, it's a great song. So first of all, please subscribe to Tom the Green Man's channel. He's got a great channel too, and he's a great guy, very knowledgeable, and it's a great that he's collaborating with us. You know, it's an honor that you guys like collaborating with me, and we should do it more often because it's fun. And so the Green Man channel, if you wanna, he does album reviews, rankings. He talks about books, and he talks about sci-fi movies. Like he's real knowledgeable in that respect. So check out his channel and subscribe. Also, John and JC Rock and Metal Reviews. He hit the 1K like a week ago, but let's not stop here. Let's get him to 2K. And he does, you know, he does some great videos as well, rankings, collaboration, and he knows a lot about like we can compete if it comes to classic rock. Like I think both Tom and me can agree. Like John is a walking encyclopedia of knowledge of like classic rock. He talks about some bands that I'm like, who are these people? So check out his channel and subscribe as well. And well, if you're seeing this, I hope you're subscribed to my channel. If not, what the fuck are you waiting for? And we want to know what were your earliest memories of metal, rock on TVs and movies? Comment. We would really want to know, like, if we missed something, like you should have said, like, hey, fucker, you should have mentioned this movie and you didn't. There's just so many things. But again, I want to thank you guys for taking some time, you know, to talk with me about this interesting topic. And hopefully comment what would you like us to discuss next. Let us know, and we will see if it's something that we can do. I think the next collaboration that we should do should be in Tom's channel, since he already collaborated with us on JC's and now mine, so we should collaborate on his channel. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So people, remember, there's more stuff on the way. So like, subscribe, and until next time, this is Hector the Shield doing a couch, and we'll see you right here on the couch. Thank you and good night.